Hello, Lars.
Hello.
Such a
Hello.
challenge to just make this interview happen. I love it because this means, to me, this has a significance because this means it's going to be an amazing interview. I already know this because I've already interviewed you. I read your book. I know how profound your knowledge is, how much your teachings are, your experience. You've studied this for 40 years. This is an important interview because we're speaking here at the core of the divine message. This is very important information for those who are called to hear it. Of course, this is not for everyone, but this is definitely significant. And you're Danish, so we're going to have this interview in English, and it's going to be translated in French. So that as many people in France can read it, because your book came out in many different countries at the same time with the same format, which is quite an intimidating little format to have in our hands. But once we go over that, there's something absolutely profound and life-changing once we read those words. So I'm very grateful to have this conversation with you, because to me, I respect your journey, because you live it, you study it, you practice it, you emanate that, and even though if you're a human being, it's very inspiring, and it's to me it's important to speak to the right person to have such a message, if you know what I mean.
I know. Thank you very much.
So this little green book, let's speak about his content, the content of it. We're gonna speak about Joshua and Mary Magdalene, and how they were unique, and how they are actually showing us how we can be. They're actually the first one to showing the way how we can be now ourselves as man, woman, couple, initiated to something greater and bigger than we can even imagine. How inspiring is that? What led you to this understanding? Before we dig into the different aspects of those teachings, what led you to this understanding, Lars?
Oh, this is many years. I have been right from I was a child. I was very interested in the Jesus figure, and but I always thought that there was something missing from the teachings I had from the church, and the school and so forth. And I did not go to school very much, so I was a bad boy, and but later on, when I learned about Mary the Magdalene, this was in the 80s. That made a huge difference to me, because I figured out that without her, he was only half, and without him, she was only half. And I think the significance of the message of both of them is that plus and minus, masculine and feminine, yin and yang, when they're united, they can, as we can read in the Testament, move mountains. And I think that's so profound. This is something that we have missed from the teachings, maybe the most important thing.
Yeah. So how did we go so far away from the real story? And what are for you the importance to get it? What are the fundamentals of that? And how can we better, embrace that now?
I think this is a really, really important question you have there, Lilou, because there's something with religion that scares a lot of people away. They think of sex, and they think of, all weird kind of things that is not really up to what we are about today. But the truth is, in my opinion, that it is when science and religion comes together, and again you have the masculine and the feminine, when they come together, without the other, you only have the half the story. So this is actually something that we should try to comprehend and implement in our life. Every time there's missing something, what is it? And we all carry it within us, and the minute we start realizing how much potential we have as human beings, and that we are already carrying it, that's when we can start to make a difference, because this world really needs people who makes a difference. But we cannot keep on going around in circles in the old paradigm, so to speak, and just give it a new name. That doesn't change anything. We really need to change the whole package, take the next step up. And that means that we need to reconsider what religion really is and what science is and what they could be if they united.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing too is that you're saying through your teachings that we are already enlightened.
Yes,
We
exactly.
already have all of it, and we keep on seeking it outside, when it's
Yeah.
really important at this time in history, to get that we have it.
I know a lot of people who are not kind of declared spiritual, but they are spiritual. I mean, this is not something that if you come and tell me I'm a spiritual, religious person, oh, fine. But it has to show through what we are doing and what we are saying. We cannot just say I'm a religious person if it doesn't show in what I do. So I'm really, really a fan of walking the talk, and I'm really a fan of practicing in the supermarket or wherever we do in daily life, because I think most people today cannot go to the monastery. And we have to find out that we can actually do it in everyday life. And we don't have to sit and meditate for hours on an end. We can do it in 10 minutes.
Yeah. But does it start, where does it start from? Does it start from this openness and understanding and then choosing and then being initiated? Or is it, how does it go? How do we go to that?
It is all about an awakening. Because if we already are enlightened, how come there's so many people who are not aware of it? That is what actually Yeshua and Mary and Magdalene are talking about, and Buddha and all the other great teachers are talking about, that we need to be reborn even in this life. Reborn. And that is everybody. One day a person comes to me and said, oh, I've just got this message from the hospital. I've got cancer, and it's terrible and stuff. But somehow I feel that this is also a gift being given to me, because I was going down the wrong path. I see now, and I have to change my life. So if we start to see that this is an initiation, whatever happens to us that we think is, oh, my wife has just left me, my world is crashing down, or I lost my business, or whatever it is, there's always a gift in there. And if we can see that instead of seeing the misery and the loss and all these things, and see it as a gift, we can actually thrive on it. We can build from that, and we can build a whole new thing. Remember, we are co-creators. And I think you know that. A lot of people who work with spirituality know that we create our own reality by how we think, our approach to life in general, what we eat. There's so many things that we can in which we can make a change.
Yeah. Can you move down a little bit your camera? Because it just moved a little bit. So we'll continue
Yeah,
the interview just like that.
it's my Buddha who's
Buddha is holding
interfering.
it.
Is it better?
Yeah, a little bit. It could be even better.
Mm-hmm.
Tilted a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So, Buddha, okay. Thank you. So, but there are tools. They had tools. They had initiation. Yeah. They were like, they initiated each other. Tell us about Joshua and Magdalene. How did this happen for them?
Yeah, there is a very, very beautiful saying from an old Aramaic Testament where Jesus or Yeshua is saying this about Mary Magdalene. He's saying, I and my bride are one, exactly as Mary the Magdalene, whom I have chosen to myself as an example, is one with me. These words are so beautiful. I and my bride are one, exactly as Mary the Magdalene, whom I have chosen to myself as an example is one with me. You see, that bride he's talking about is actually the inner feminine principle within himself. He had just discovered this and become aware of that feminine principle. And then he see this principle being mirrored in an earthly woman, Mary the Magdalene. And therefore, he have chosen her as his partner, his teacher, his one and only, because they are one. And in the New Testament, we can read that Yeshua drew out 7 evil spirits from Mary the Magdalene. No, he was opening the 7 chakras.
Yeah, tell us more about that. Yeah.
You see, in the chakras at the mystery school of the Essenes, where Yeshua was initiated, they were called first heaven as the base chakra, second chakra, second heaven, third heaven, fourth heaven, fifth heaven, sixth heaven. I was in the 7th heaven. Yeah. And so we can read also that Paul, in one of his letters, he said he was taken to the 4th heaven, to the heart area, So they were, Mary the Magdalene and Yeshua was in that way initiating each other,
But they activated, you say in your book, they activated that.
Yeah,
they activated those chakras. I thought when we were born, those chakras were already activated.
They are, but from the minute we come into this world, they are being closed down.
You mean as what we call the oubli, in French, which is when we forget, we forget where we're...
Exactly.
Why do we forget?
It's because of the social conditioning. And, we are surrounded by very well-meaning and loving people, our parents and grandparents and whoever they are, and they want the best for us. But they are also conditioned. And if they don't know any better, they will just give that to us. And when we wake up somehow, it's our responsibility to find out, is this something that we want to give to our children just without trying to better it or to transform it? Of course not. And that is what all the shadow work is all about, is to look into our own lives and see, how did all kinds of things affect me? And, because I have been through a lot of hardship, doesn't mean I have to transport this hardship to my children or to my friends and lovers or whoever. But that we can actually use that as a teaching. We know how that is. So that also open our hearts towards compassion for other people. So, so it is all about to have the guts to look into our own shadows and our own shadow world and see, that's not who we are, but it's part of the transition. It's part of the transformation.
Yeah.
And we learn from that.
Do we know what was the Joshua's or Mary Magdalene's shadow work? We don't know much about their childhood and how they grew up and how much they have maybe traveled to India or whatever to get... we hear so many things, but we hear things, but it's not really said. We only hear about 3 or 4 years of their life. How come?
There is... have you heard about Edgar Cayce?
Yeah.
The American seer. He have written a lot about the Essenes and Yeshua. And even before the Dead Sea Scrolls were found at the Dead Sea, he had prophecies about those scrolls being found. And, he was a very fundamental Christian. So when he woke up from channeling all this knowledge about Yeshua and the Essenes, he was astonished, and he was almost shocked, because he had never heard about the Essenes. So now suddenly he started to talk about that Yeshua actually had a woman teacher, who took him to India, to Egypt, Persia, and was instrumental in initiating him into a lot of the teachings that he needed before he could go out and do his work. And Mary Magdalene was also instrumental in this, because without her, this could not be possible for him, because he knew that the masculine and the feminine had to work together, also in physical life. So you can actually glimpse it in the New Testament. You can actually glimpse it from the moment, from the marriage at Cana, after his initiation in the 40 days in the desert, where he was confronted with the wild animals, his own shadows, and Satan, his own ego. After that initiation, he went to the marriage of Cana, and that was his own marriage to Mary the Magdalene. And after that, she was the teacher of the female disciples, and he was the teacher of the male disciples.
So there was a spiritual marriage.
It was. But the shadow work that you started out with here was actually done in the 40 days in the desert. That was where, if you go, for example, you can do it today. You can just take a week off and go into fasting. I know you fast sometimes, so you know about what profound workings it can have. But if you do that, for example, for a week just, you could do it in your own living room. Not next to your fridge, keep that away, you know. But or you can go out in nature, and take a week off and sit there and meditate, and bring with you a good book, for example, and or whatever.
And pen and paper.
Also, yeah, and some water, and then you just wait there. You know, when you go out into the desert, as Yeshua does. Doesn't mean you actually have to go out in a physical desert, but desert in Aramaic is a metaphor for putting yourself in an unprotected state. You see, so that what is meant by it. They went to a certain cave near the University of the Essenes at the Dead Sea, and he was sitting there for 40 days. You can actually see, I made a video from there, from that cave. So you can actually go, and it's on YouTube. It's called The Gate of Light. And there you can experience how it would have been. I'm performing a 2,500-year-old practice of the Essenes in the cave while I'm there. And you can see it all in that video. But this just to give you a feeling of what the environment was, you know. So he was, as I said before, confronted with his own shadows. And after that was the final initiation. He went to get married with the feminine principle. There was a lot of, it was both physically, but also metaphorical. There was so much more to that marriage than just being married and having kids, you know. Not that is not of any importance, I know that. But, you know, for those two, they had a much more significance, meaning, you know, on a higher level, because they were, you could say, soulmates in its highest degree. You know?
Twin flames.
Pardon?
Could we say twin flames?
Yeah, you could say.
It feels like nearly they were part of the same soul, kind of divided, or something very special, no?
And when you go into all the Gnostic scriptures, I mean, there's loads of stuff about them. How, for example, Mary Magdalene was the disciple that Jesus loved the most and often kissed on the mouth, you know. It's in the Gospel of Philip. And there's so many more, you know, where they are playing a significant work. They do some significant work together, and they are inseparable. That's why every time I talk about Yeshua, she's always part of it. Every time I talk about her, she's also there. You cannot just talk about one of them.
But it seems like through history, she was made the bad one, and he was made the good one.
Of course, because there was a few of the disciples, Simon Peter, for example, he did not really understand what the work was all about. He wanted a physical church, and he got it. It's still in Rome, the Church of Peter. And you remember there was at one time, and I'm saying this not to demonize Catholic Church or anything. I'm not into that at all. I mean, I've had so many great experiences within the Catholic Church, so that's not where I'm going. But at one point, Yeshua is saying to Simon Peter, "Turn away from me, Satan," because he's asking the master some questions that shows that he haven't understood anything. So there's many places in the Gospels, the Gnostic Gospels, where you can hear Simon Peter, "Please, Master, you must shut this lady up so we can also have a word." And Yeshua is turning to him saying, "Simon, please." And he's giving him the look and just putting him in his right place. Because Simon Peter, he wanted to be the next in line. He wanted to be next, ruling. But when Yeshua
But that
was not
wasn't
there,
the purpose of Yeshua.
no, when Yeshua was not there anymore, you can read in the New Testament, but also in the Gospel of Mary. In Gospel of Mary, it said she had been out to the grave and seen Yeshua rise there, and she go back to Jerusalem and with the good news. "Oh, friends," she says, "I have seen my beloved being raised from the dead. In a vision, I saw him. Not physically, but I had a vision. I saw him rise from her." And Simon Peter is just about to strangle her. It is just because Philip and a few others, I think John, is interfering. But from that moment on, we don't hear any more about Mary the Magdalene in the New Testament. And from that moment, all the church fathers, or the church that we know today, are within the next 325 years until the church is established, there is a so-called character murder on Mary the Magdalene. From a highly initiated and exalted one, she becomes suddenly a whore. Not suddenly, because they take them 300 years to just, turn her into a whore, a simple whore. It's just recently, a few years back, that she was taken in again, and the church realized that she was a saint and she was a teacher in her own right. And one day they will also realize, I know they know now, but also in a public sense of the word, that they will realize and tell the world who she really was. She was supposed to be the one who took over from Yeshua. She was the only one who was able to do that.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Careful with your mic, because it slightly goes. Just careful with your microphone, because it gets on your shirt. If you can slightly pull it, yeah. So they're total equals.
They're what?
They're total equals.
Yes. They are one in the best understanding of that word.
Yeah. And so you're saying, by understanding that, knowing that, we have access to that within ourselves, and by knowing this, allowing to what finally?
You see, in this book here, there is actually practices, and here's a drawing. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Of how you could go about to kind of unite the feminine and the masculine within yourself. If you haven't got a partner, because of course when you have a partner, there's so many things in this that would seem so much easier, but actually it's very easy to work with these things yourself, and it's all in the book here. And there's also some other old, from the Essenes mystery school, very old practices that are instrumental in opening us towards the inner kingdom of heaven, as they were talking about. But there's also another thing. To me, there's no doubt that when religion and science come together, they together will develop a whole new kind of quantum physics that is actually the future, because we are talking about fifth dimensional understanding and perception. And it had been there all the time. It was just named something else, But we now today name it, for example, fifth dimensional perception. And this is something that is already going on and have been going on for some time now within spiritual people who work seriously with this, but also within some of the Kabbalistic schools in Israel, They are very, very advanced in some of those practices. And one of them is also in here. And you can see that practice in that video I was talking about before, the Gate of Light. It's called the Chariot of Fire practice. And it is to create a spiritual vehicle for you to approach higher levels of consciousness. And it is something you can, and the amazing thing is you can work with this everywhere. There's no excuse for not doing it, because you can do it in the supermarket or wherever you are, you know.
How practical, especially these days where we can't travel really very much.
Yeah, exactly. But if you go into the Hermetical scriptures, Lilou, you can actually, I mean, it's amazing. We think we are so advanced, you know. But go back and read the Hermetical scriptures and see what they are talking about. Talking about to go wherever you want. If you want to leave time and space, yeah, why not? You can even see the universe from without, from outside. And they actually say to you, if you don't see God and try to be equal to God, what would you have to do with God anyway? I mean, equal seek equal. And in the New Testament, Yeshua is actually saying, remember, it is written that you are all gods, meaning that we are all carrying God consciousness. And if you know how to read the Bible, you can see it in the first, book of Genesis. You can see in the Old Testament, we were born in the image of God. What kind of image is that? That is the kingdom of heaven that Yeshua is talking about. We are carrying within. We are carrying some of that God consciousness, and we could call it whatever we want. It doesn't matter. I call it God consciousness.
So why is this so why are we getting this now? Why are we realizing getting this information? More people, I mean, are getting this information than before now.
Mm-hmm.
At this time.
One thing is to talk about it. Another thing is to accept it and try to implement it, or what do you call, not implement it because it's already there, but to activate it. And that is what spiritual work is all about. And try to find a total alignment between what you think, say, and do. Because too many people are saying one thing and doing a total other thing. I mean, words are so cheap nowadays. It is all about what do you do, and what kind of impact does it have on your surroundings. So we need to go back. My teacher, the seer, Calle de Montségur, he was very much about walking the talk. He didn't read that many things. He only was about doing things the right way, you know. And he was actually, every morning he dedicated himself to the universe by saying, I hereby dedicate myself to the universe. And he said it in a loud voice, and he was really dedicated.
Yeah. And that's what's beautiful in your book too, the prayers, or how we can not customize them but own them, you know, and be part of it. And it's so powerful than just the regular prayers.
When I worked as a healer for 7 years, as part of my education with the seer, I started to write down a lot of prayers, not something some I've written myself, but also something I've written myself. Good words, something that was mind-opening and heart-opening words. And that book I always put on top of the heart chakra of the person who lied there. And it had a profound, it really worked, you know. And these are the prayers that is now in this book, and I put them there because I know they work. And I randomly, I could open the book and just pick a prayer and sit silently beside that patient or client who was lying there and whispering this prayer into the ears of that one. Or I could sing a song for them or play my harmonium, or, you know, follow my intuition. The seer, he always said, follow your very first impression of that person before this one can start to act. Because when that starts to work, forget about it. Then it's too late. You need to go with your intuition, or else it won't go with you. Have trust, and things will happen.
Right. You must have trusted a lot, because to create such a tiny book, I mean, there's a lot of that is said in it, and obviously it's condensed, but compared to your other books that were so thick, so big, so much information, you've come a long way to come to this format.
This is the essence of many of the things I have been studying and practicing. So I thought, just to carry the book. I mean, there's people in Germany and other places they just carry the book. Some of them haven't even read it, but they say it makes a difference just to carry it, because they can feel that there's so many profound things in it.
Yeah. You speak of the queendom instead of the kingdom. I find that awesome. Can you say more?
Yeah, that's another thing. I started to study the Aramaic language of Jesus and Mary the Magdalene in the 80s. And it's actually only a few years ago, it dawned on me that Malkuta de Shemaya, that I thought was Kingdom of Heaven, actually is Queendom of Heaven. Jesus is using the feminine, pronouncing the Queendom of Heaven, Malkuta. In Hebrew, it's Malkut, which is the masculine, the kingdom. So that's another thing to think about, that Yeshua is really stressing the importance of the feminine in this connection, the Queendom of Heaven. Isn't that wonderful? And I think especially in our time, it's not that now it's the feminine and not the masculine. It's those two together, We must not make the same mistake as we did with the masculine that became the patriarchal mindset that is still ruling, but is on the absolutely last verse of the song. Now it is the union of the two, and if we've missed that, forget about it. We can talk from now on.
But it seems like I was just noticing around me in spiritual circles, or just people that feel connected to the earth, that there's a lot of couples working together these days, doing sacred work together. But there seems to be the woman with some kind of, not the vision, but something she's holding, and like the man is kind of holding her and allowing this light to shine, and the man seemed to love that in the sacred masculine, of the man, and it's beautiful to see. I'm living that too in my relationship, and I'm seeing it in many cases around. Is that something that you're noticing in Denmark and other places where you go?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly as you just expressed it. And I think that's also, there is a sacred mountain in the Pyrenees, in the French Pyrenees, at Montreal-de-Sos, and it was used from the Order of the World Mother used to come there. It's an old French order, feminine order, and one of my female teachers was part of that order, and I wrote about her in the old manuscript, my trilogy, and she's told me that there is that mountain. I've been there many times, and it's really, really amazing to see this mountain. And she called that, it was a kind of clitoris of the whole landscape, and it is surrounded by masculine mountains that is just carrying it. This profound place, of femininity, and it's exactly like a metaphor for what you just said. That the masculine is holding, protecting,
securizing,
sealing.
making sure all is well, so she can blossom.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true love.
Opening up, I would say. He is the ephata, the opener for that things to, and the holder. Yeah, and she's holding the light, and through him and her, that light is being
revealed.
Yeah.
Being liberated. So would you say there is more light now? Because we always speak of this duality and there would not be any good without darkness. And how does this,
Mm.
you know, at first sight, it seems like there's a lot more negative things happening, but is it always in equilibrium, or would you say now there's more and more light and higher frequency? And what is your perception on what's going on in the world?
I think it's right that the more light, the more dark it will also come as. But you know, there's no darkness, and dark matter is actually just unconsciousness. All this that needs to be conscious, you know, and it's being it, you know, because the light will keep on evolving. But we are at a crucial point in our evolution. So it's all about choice. What do we choose now? What path do we choose to go down by? And so it's very exciting times also now to see what's happening.
You're excited to be at this time on Earth. It feels like we're very courageous souls.
I think that we all us who are here now is here for a purpose.
Yeah.
And especially when you try to have the guts to start to work with spirituality, because that really, you know, a lot of people think, oh, if I become a spiritual people, all my worries will go away. No, that's where they start, you know, when you start working with yourself. And a lot of people, they shy away from that. They think, oh, don't we have problems enough? Yes, but you see, we have to kind of cleanse the whole thing now and purify ourselves. And therefore, we need sometimes to go through the dark night of the soul, or whatever you call it. And then we are cleansed, and then we can really, it's not just words anymore, it is deeds. And the effect will show from that moment.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that this will be the end result. It's just a matter of time. So what do we choose?
Love or fear?
Yeah. If not now, when? And if not us, who? I mean, that's the two main questions we need to answer. Why should we wait? If it's not now, when is it then?
Well, to step in our light, to step in our greatness,
Mm.
is and to know that we know, and to know that we have already this in us, and we can just not blindly but just walk towards the unknown and be carried and be in our own light is a huge step for most people, and such a revelation to live by.
Yeah, I think what we are going through now is the last thing of all the childish stuff, and that's also counts for the so-called New Age movement. That we have to take responsibility now and quit all the kindergarten stuff. You know, we have been there long enough now. Now it's time to take the next step and stand up and take responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, beautifully said. I keep on having a question that keeps on slipping away, which is very interesting for me when I have that, because I know there's something that doesn't want to be heard or said. But yes, healing. Right, that's it. You spoke a little bit earlier about Essenes teachings and healing. What have you learned from those healings and malady, you know, and when we're sick and all that, what's the reason, or how can we deal with it, and how can we heal ourselves, and what's the key to that?
The main problem for most people, that is behind almost all illnesses and this, is that we are not able to. We are too stagnated, you know. We don't understand that everything changes all the time, and if we don't go with the flow somehow and find out that it's a cosmic dance that we are actually invited to be part of, and if we don't accept that, it is the reason behind a lot of the suffering that we are experiencing, that we are not able to really, I thought now I just made it, you know, and everything is cool, and I have a lot of money, and the sweetest girl on earth, And now it's suddenly changed, I cannot accept that. I need to go back to normal, We always say back to normal, Normal, there's nothing normal. And thank God for that. The minute that things become normal, that is death, Everything is changing, and we have to go with it, and we have to accept it and make the best of it, And and if we accept it, it will be the best. That's the amazing thing, Maybe it was good before, but it will be even better in a minute, But of course,
You
if we
mention
hold back,
essential. You do mention though essential oils and other ways of healing in there. Little concoctions. I mean, it gets quite practical, though there is, to the point again. But tell us about the essential oils and how useful they are in this whole context.
there is a some oils from a firm called doTERRA that is very, very, very pure. And they're so pure you can even drink them, And because I've been very much into the scriptures, and you can read that, actually Christ means the anointed one, and Mary the Magdalene is anointing Jesus with those holy oils, and they are the same oils that the wise men brought to the Christ child at Bethlehem, frankincense and myrrh and spikenard. These three oils, they are very, very powerful, and especially the pure you can get. I know also in France there is a firm that I don't remember. They have green stickers on there. Do you know it?
Yes. I'm just trying to.
Which are also very, very good.
Yes.
Those are the only those together with doTERRA, which are from America, that I know about. It's really pure. And every time I go to France, I buy those and use them in my work there.
Yeah, we find them in organic stores and.
Also there is some pharmacies who have them. I always bought them in pharmacies. There are special pharmacies that also have a special person in the pharmacy that can help you and guide you into these things.
Yeah. So you know this whole dilemma with bringing essential oils on the market or whatsoever, because there is some industrials and laboratories that are preventing essential oils to fully be.
Yeah, but
so especially when we put it on the tongue or just not only inhale it. So what is your use of it? How do you use it?
My little recipe is in the book, but it's very quickly. I take some almond oil or alike, and I put a few drops, for example, 5 drops of each of those 3 oils I just mentioned, and I just have a little bottle like this, carrying it with me, and always it's so good for many, many things.
You put
also.
It here.
Yeah, if I'm doing healing, I will put it on the forehead of somebody or wherever I feel it. Maybe if there is a point of the body that needs where the healing is needed, I'll put some there. But mentioning about the medical industry and the pharmacy industry and all this from big pharma, I mean, this is part of the old dogma, And it's childish stuff, and it's over. Greed is over. It's kindergarten stuff, making a lot of money for the money's sake, kindergarten stuff. All these things must go, and they have to go, and they will go. There's no doubt in my mind of that. But we need to make the right choices now, and we need to take responsibility, and we need to help promote the medicine of the nature. I mean, it has been around for thousands of years, millions of years. So why should it not be working now? Because there's somebody that comes in and said, no, it's dangerous. Yes, it's also dangerous to drink this stuff here that I could clean my screen with. But still, I can go and buy all the bottles I want. And if I just started to drink it, I would probably drop dead. So, I mean, that's a lot of things. Petrol You can get all the petrol you want, but if you drink it, you will die. So please, I think people are clever enough to handle.
Let's be coherent. I hear that you want to see coherence.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people will be clever enough to handle herbs from nature and stuff like that. There's books to read about it and how to go about it.
Yes.
And it's not. This is also part of the future. It has always been part of mankind on Earth, herbals and that nature medicines.
Yes. Well,
and also essential oils.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lars.
Thank you, Lilou. It was good to see you again.
It was great. And I love the background. Thank you, because I know everybody that has been watching this video is enjoying this background and the you know, the energy of the earth. And it's really good, especially when we're seeing it from inside. I love how it just drops, but we did it. I want to let everybody know that's watching this interview to this point that it took us a lot to make this interview happen.
Yeah.
And I'm so delighted that we went all the way and that we made this happen, because the timing is right now. Obviously,
me too.
And
Okay.
it's been a privilege to interview you again, and I'm excited that it will go all around the world and be translated and shared. So thank you so much, Lars, for being such a beacon of light.
Take care now. Huh?
Thank you, you too. Much love.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, and bye-bye to everyone. Thank you for watching.